I knew I was in trouble the moment 3 men with cheap badges and faker-looking uniforms showed up at my door, claiming to be special officers, investigating a serious violation at my property. One glance at their mismatched gear, and the HOA president lurking behind them with a self-satisfied smile told me everything I needed to know. "Mr. Layton, we're here about the unauthorized shed in your backyard," the tallest fake cop announced, trying to sound official while his hand rested awkwardly on a plastic holster. "We have the authority to issue a citation and potential removal order." I might have laughed if it wasn't so pathetic. I'd been fighting with Olivia Norcross, our power-hungry HOA president, for months over my perfectly regulation-compliant storage shed. But I never expected she'd sink this low. "May I see your law enforcement credentials?" I asked calmly. The 3 men exchanged nervous glances. That's when my neighbor's front door opened, and Logan Evans stepped onto his porch. Logan, a retired Delta Force operator who'd moved in 6 months ago, assessed the situation in seconds. "Everything okay, Liam?" he called, casually walking over while the fake officers stiffened. What happened next would change everything in our little suburban development of Oak Ridge Estates. "You see, I'm just a regular small business owner. I run a print shop downtown, who wanted to store my lawn equipment in a simple backyard shed. But Olivia Norcross had declared war on me from the moment I questioned one of her arbitrary rule changes at a community meeting 3 months ago. It began with petty citation notices for invisible infractions, grass half an inch too tall, garbage bins visible for 30 minutes after collection, excessive holiday decorations during Christmas. Each violation came with increasingly absurd fines that weren't actually in our HOA charter. When I installed my shed, a modest structure that perfectly matched my house and sat well within the property setback requirements, Olivia lost her mind. She slapped me with a $1,500, unauthorized structure fine despite the fact that I'd submitted all the proper paperwork. I refused to pay. That's when things escalated. First came the daily inspection visits. Then my guests would find their cars ticketed for improper visitor parking, despite being in my own driveway. My mail mysteriously disappeared for days. Someone even reported my business to the health department for code violations, though we don't even handle food. But sending fake police officers? That crossed a line I couldn't believe. As Logan approached, I noticed the 3 men grow increasingly uncomfortable. Logan didn't look intimidating in his faded jeans and navy blue t-shirt, but something about his calm, measured walk made even me straighten my posture. "These gentlemen claim to be officers here about my shed," I explained. Logan smiled pleasantly. "Is that right? Which department are you with?" The tallest fake cop cleared his throat. "Special Enforcement Division. County level." Logan nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting. I spent some time with county last week at a community relations event. Don't recall seeing any of you there." He extended his hand toward their badges. "Mind if I take a closer look at those credentials?" That's when Olivia stepped forward, her highlighted bob haircut bouncing with indignation. "This is HOA business, Mr. Evans. You're not even involved." "I'm involved when someone impersonates law enforcement in my neighborhood," Logan replied, his voice still friendly but carrying an edge that made one of the men take a small step back. The shortest fake cop suddenly looked very interested in his shoes. "Look, Ms. Norcross just hired us to deliver the violation notice with some authority. We're private security, not cops." Olivia's face flushed crimson. "That is absolutely not. Your badges say police officer, and you claim to have citation authority." Logan interrupted, now holding his phone up, apparently recording. "Impersonating law enforcement is a felony in this state." What happened next still amazes me. In less than a minute, 60 seconds flat, Logan had all 3 men removing their fake badges and emptying their pockets of counterfeit citation books. He never raised his voice or made a threatening move. He simply asked pointed questions that unraveled their whole charade while making it clear he knew exactly what real law enforcement looked like. "Ms. Norcross paid us $200 each," admitted the tallest one, now looking terrified. Said it was just to scare him a little, make him pay his fines. Olivia's perfect makeup couldn't hide her panic. That's a lie. I never. These men are contractors for the HOA security committee. Logan raised an eyebrow. The security committee that doesn't exist according to the bylaws? Interesting. I stood there, witnessing Olivia's carefully constructed intimidation scheme collapse in real time, wondering how deep this rabbit hole went. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of exposing a years-long pattern of corruption that had affected nearly every homeowner in Oak Ridge Estates. Olivia stormed off, promising consequences for everyone involved. The fake officers scattered quickly after Logan informed them he'd be sending the video to the actual sheriff's department. As they hurried away, I turned to thank him, but the expression on his face stopped me. You might want to check your HOA financial records, he said quietly. People who abuse power rarely stop at one type of violation. That offhand comment would prove more prophetic than either of us could have imagined. The next morning, I woke to a certified letter informing me that the HOA board had voted to place a lien on my property for accumulated unpaid fines and penalties totaling $6,750. The letter was dated before yesterday's confrontation, but the timing felt far from coincidental. I called the one board member I somewhat trusted, Patricia Green, who sounded confused. What emergency meeting? We haven't convened in 3 weeks. Now I was really concerned. I decided to dig deeper, but I needed help navigating the legal aspects. Fortunately, another neighbor, Olivia's frequent target Rachel Martinez, was a paralegal at a local law firm. Over coffee at my kitchen table, she reviewed the HOA bylaws. First problem, Rachel said, circling a section with her pen. Fines can't exceed $100 per violation without a full board vote and homeowner hearing. Second, liens require documented attempts at collection and a 30-day notice period. None of that happened. So the lien isn't legal? Rachel frowned. It shouldn't be, but someone filed it with the county yesterday. It's already in the system. My stomach dropped. How is that possible? Someone with signing authority rushed it through. To remove it, you'll either need to pay or fight it in court. I didn't have $6,750 to spare, and legal battles could cost even more. But something about this felt bigger than just my situation. That's when I remembered Logan's suggestion about the financial records. As a dues-paying member, I had the right to request financial statements. When I submitted the formal request that afternoon, I received an immediate call from Olivia. What exactly do you think you're doing? Her voice had that false sweetness that barely concealed the venom beneath. Exercising my rights as a homeowner, I replied. The bylaws give me access to all financial records. Those records are handled by our accounting firm and require special procedures to access. It could take weeks, maybe months. Her tone shifted to something almost conciliatory. Perhaps we could resolve your situation more directly? If you remove that eyesore shed and pay the original fine, we could forget the additional penalties. I nearly agreed just to end the nightmare, but something in her eagerness made me hesitate. I'll think about it. After hanging up, I called Logan and explained the situation. He listened carefully before asking, how many people serve on your HOA board? 5, including Olivia as president. And how many does it take to approve expenditures? 3 signatures for anything over $1,000, according to Rachel. Logan nodded thoughtfully. So 3 people would know if money was being mishandled. I saw where he was going. Unless the signatures were forged, he finished. It happens more often than you'd think. The next day, I received an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. You're not the only one. Be careful who sees this. P. Patricia Green, I assumed. I plugged the drive into my computer and found hundreds of financial documents spanning the past 3 years. Bank statements, invoices, contracts, many containing discrepancies that even my untrained eye could spot. Charges for services never rendered. Payments to companies that didn't exist. duplicate invoices paid multiple times. Most concerning were the board meeting minutes showing approved expenditures with board member signatures that looked nothing like the examples Patricia had included for comparison. I was staring at evidence of what appeared to be systematic embezzlement, potentially totaling over $200,000 from our community's funds. Before I could decide what to do, my phone rang. It was Patricia, her voice tense. "Olivia just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow night. The only agenda item is removal of problematic homeowners. You need to be there. She can't just kick people out of their homes," I protested. "Technically no, but she's claiming authority to escalate all outstanding fines and immediately foreclose on properties with liens." Patricia paused. "Liam, I think she knows I gave you those files. My house suddenly has a list of violations I never received formal notice about." After assuring Patricia I'd handled the documents carefully, I called Rachel for legal advice and Logan for, well, I wasn't sure exactly, but his calm strategic thinking seemed valuable right now. They both arrived within the hour, and as we spread the documents across my dining room table, the scale of Olivia's operation became clear. "She's been running the HOA like a personal ATM," Rachel said, examining bank statements. "Look at these landscaping charges, $25,000 for special seasonal plantings last spring. The only new plants were some petunias around the entrance sign." Logan was focused on a different document. "The security company that supposedly patrols the neighborhood? It's registered to someone named Nathan Norcross." "Her husband?" I asked. Rachel nodded. "They've been divorced for years, but that doesn't mean they're not working together." We spent hours organizing the evidence, creating a timeline of suspicious transactions. The pattern was always the same. Olivia would propose an improvement project, get it approved by the board, then hire companies with inflated bids. The work would be done poorly or not at all, yet full payment would go out, often to businesses connected to her friends or family. "The question is," Logan said as we finished, "why accelerate now? She's been doing this for years without anyone catching on." Rachel had a theory. "The annual audit. We're due for a comprehensive financial review next month. It's mandated in the bylaws every 3 years. That had to be it." Olivia was trying to cover her tracks by creating chaos and possibly forcing out the homeowners most likely to question her authority. "We need to get this information to the authorities," I said. "And we need to stop that emergency meeting," Rachel added. "Once she starts the foreclosure process, it creates a legal mess that takes months to untangle." Logan had been quiet, studying the HOA charter. "There's another option. Article 9, Section 4 allows for an emergency recall election of board members if 20% of homeowners petition for it with evidence of malfeasance." We looked at each other. "Could we gather enough support by tomorrow night?" "I know at least 10 families with outrageous fines similar to yours," Rachel said. "And I've heard complaints from at least that many more," I added. Logan stood up. "Then we have work to do." The next 18 hours were a blur of activity. We carefully approached neighbors we thought would be sympathetic, showing them selected documents relevant to their situations. Many had stories similar to mine: arbitrary fines, escalating penalties, threats of liens. By morning, we had signatures from 32 households, well over the 20% required. Patricia provided us with one final piece of the puzzle: the HOA's real bank statements for the past 6 months, showing withdrawals of over $50,000 with no corresponding invoices or approved expenses. As evening approached, we finalized our plan. I would attend the emergency board meeting as the accused problematic homeowner, while Rachel and Logan organized the other residents to arrive halfway through with our petition and evidence. I arrived at the community center at 7 p.m. sharp. Olivia sat at the center of the board table, flanked by 2 members who always voted with her. Patricia and the 5th member, an elderly gentleman named Howard, sat further away looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Easton," Olivia began without preamble, "you've been called to answer for repeated violations of community standards and failure to pay assessed fines. I'd like to see documentation of these violations." I replied calmly. She slid a folder across the table. Everything is properly documented. I opened it to find violation notices I'd never seen before, all backdated and containing forged signatures acknowledging receipt. These are fraudulent, I stated flatly. Are you accusing the board of fraud? Her voice rose dramatically as she looked around at the nearly empty room. Only a few of her loyal supporters sat in the audience section. That's a serious accusation that could result in defamation charges. I smiled. It's not defamation if it's true. And I have proof. Olivia's confident expression faltered for just a second before she recovered. The board has already voted. Your property has been liened, and we're initiating foreclosure proceedings effective immediately. Patricia spoke up. I don't recall voting on this. You were outvoted, Olivia snapped. 3-2. Howard looked confused. I never voted on any foreclosure. Before Olivia could respond, the community center doors opened, and residents began streaming in, at least 40 homeowners led by Logan and Rachel. What is the meaning of this interruption? Olivia demanded, standing up. Logan stepped forward with a document in hand. According to Article 9, Section 4 of the Oak Ridge Estates HOA Charter, we, the undersigned homeowners representing more than 20% of the community, hereby call for an immediate recall election of the board president based on evidence of financial malfeasance and abuse of power. The room erupted in murmurs as Rachel began distributing packets of evidence to everyone present, including copies of bank statements, forged documents, and a summary of questionable transactions. Olivia's face drained of color. This meeting is adjourned, she announced, gathering her papers. Actually, I interjected, the bylaws state that once a recall petition is properly submitted, the meeting must continue under the supervision of the vice president. All eyes turned to Howard, who slowly stood up, looking at the evidence packet with growing horror. Is this accurate? He asked, holding up a bank statement showing a $12,000 payment to Premium Landscape Design, a company owned by Olivia's sister. Of course not, Olivia sputtered. These documents are obviously manipulated by Mr. Easton in retaliation for his violations. That's when Patricia spoke up. They match the official records I received directly from the bank, Olivia. I've been suspicious for months, which is why I requested duplicate statements be sent to my home address as treasurer. The mood in the room shifted palpably as homeowners began comparing notes about their own experiences with arbitrary fines and threats. Olivia made a desperate move toward the exit, but found Logan standing calmly in her path. I've invited some guests who are very interested in speaking with you, he said softly as the community center doors opened once more. 2 uniformed police officers entered, accompanied by a woman in a suit who introduced herself as a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit. Ms. Norcross? We'd like to ask you some questions about discrepancies in the Oak Ridge Estate's financial accounts. I'll never forget the look of pure hatred Olivia gave me as she was escorted out. Not under arrest, not yet, but clearly in serious trouble. The aftermath unfolded over the following weeks. Forensic accountants discovered that Olivia had embezzled nearly $300,000 over 4 years through fraudulent contracts, phantom services, and inflated invoices. Her ex-husband Nathan and 2 friends had created shell companies that billed for work never performed. The fake police officers turned out to be former bouncers from a club Nathan managed. All the improper liens were removed from homeowners' properties. The fraudulent fines were cancelled. Olivia, Nathan, and their accomplices were arrested on multiple felony counts of fraud, embezzlement, and in Olivia's case, impersonating a public official by proxy. Howard became the interim HOA president, with Patricia as treasurer and a new commitment to transparency. My shed remained exactly where it was, perfectly compliant with the actual rules. As for Logan, he politely declined nomination to the new board. I've had enough of organizational politics in my military career, he told me as we shared beers on my back porch a month after everything went down. But I'm glad I could help. 60 seconds, I said, shaking my head in amazement. It took you exactly 60 seconds to dismantle her fake police scheme, How did you do that? He shrugged. In Delta, we were trained to assess threats and identify imposters quickly. Those guys weren't just bad actors, they were nervous bad actors. The plastic badges, mismatched uniforms, lack of proper equipment, it was amateur hour. Well, your minute of action sparked something that saved a lot of people from losing their homes. Logan took a sip of his beer. Communities work when people look out for each other. Olivia counted on everyone staying isolated, too intimidated to compare notes. I nodded, thinking about how many neighbors I'd gotten to know through this ordeal after years of just casual waves. We now had monthly block parties, a community garden project, and an actually functional neighborhood watch that didn't involve fake cops or excessive fees. Sometimes it takes a crisis to build something better. And sometimes it takes just 60 seconds of the right person stepping up to start the change. The shed that started it all? It's still standing in my backyard, a symbol of standing up to petty tyranny and the power of community. Logan helped me repaint it last weekend. We made it blue, the color of the Delta Force beret. A small tribute to the neighbor who ended a reign of HOA terror in less time than it takes most people to brush their teeth.